Massachusetts. An armed robbery suspect has crashed his car in this quiet neighborhood. As he fled from the police, the fugitive stormed inside the home of Paul Hardy, who was making breakfast for his twin boys.
Next thing you know, I heard glass shattering, and it was right in my kitchen. And I looked up to see a masked gunman pointing the gun at me and my children. So.
But what the suspect doesn't know is that Paul is a corrections officer, trained to handle dangerous criminals.
Listen, you don't want to be an object, you want to be a person. So I was saying, well, my name's Paul, these are my sons, Kevin and Kyle.
Paul's wife, Gail, is at work when she learns that her family has been taken hostage. She immediately rushes home.
I wasn't sure that they were okay at that point because I didn't get to talk to them.
Police surround the house, but their efforts are hampered by a crowd of local news stations broadcasting the standoff. This allows the fugitive, Chad Austin, to watch their every move on live TV.
This gave the suspect, Chad Austin, real-time information about what he was up against outside and put us at a disadvantage.
Inside the house, Paul makes a desperate plea to save the lives of his children.
I was scared myself, but I was more scared for the kids. You know, they were only 4 at the time.
Finally, he convinces the gunman to release the 2 boys. As the fugitive talks to police on the phone, Paul tries to push one of his sons out the front door. But the frightened child wraps his arms around his father's neck, refusing to go. Then, Paul tries to get the children to leave through the garage, but the boys are terrified. Suddenly, Kyle rushes back to his father. Kevin runs toward the police and is whisked to safety. But Paul is forced to make a gut-wrenching choice with Kyle.
The hardest thing I had to do in my life was I had to take my son, put him outside, push him out, and close the garage door on him. You know, he's pulling up. I can feel the door trying to come up, and he's kicking and banging on the door, and it just ripped my heart out.
Police quickly move in and carry the child away. The boys are safely returned to their mother. But now, Gail fears for her husband's life. Police officers persuade the gunman to allow the couple to speak on the phone. Gail chokes back tears, trying to remain strong for her husband.
They're fine. They're just scared. There's a lot of people.
They're all right now?
They're fine. Did they not want to come out?
Yeah, they didn't want to come out.
Okay.
Okay.
I love you.
That was the hardest thing, is to show no emotion on the telephone, so he wouldn't be worried about me.
Now Paul is inside the house, facing down the gunman, alone.
Now on my 4.5 hours of frustration, now here we go. Now it's just me and you, and let's see who wins.
Paul goes on the attack, stunning the suspect with a blow to the head. Then he knocks out the window screen and tries to escape. But the fugitive grabs him from behind. Both men furiously battle for control of the gun.
At that point, it was a wrestling match. I mean, I was headbutting him. He was, yelling at me. He's going to kill me. I'm yelling at him.
Officers know this is their only chance. They storm through the back of the house. Then an explosion erupts from within.
I threw the flashbang grenade into the living room, and that did the trick.
The explosive device disorients the 2 men long enough for police to grab the gunman. Paul stumbles for the window and leaps out onto the lawn. He lies motionless as a SWAT officer rushes to his side. Seconds later, he is pulled to safety. Paul and Gail are reunited. The family's nightmare is finally over.
We just kind of ran to him and just started hugging each other.
The couple was on hand when the verdict was read. Chad Austin was charged with several felony counts, including attempted murder and kidnapping.
Defendant guilty or not guilty?
Guilty.
The Hardy home is safe once again, thanks to the bravery of a father who put his life on the line to save his family.
My life was at stake for me, and his life in prison was on stake for him. So it was like, who's going to win? And, the better man won.
East Moline, Illinois. It's the 7th harness race at Quad City Down.
They're heading for the final bend, under-urging Ideal Neil with a short lead. Dream of victory, trying to battle back.
Keep an eye on Ideal Neil, driven by Scott Robbins. Coming out of the final turn, Scott is about to pull ahead, but then, disaster. His horse goes down.
Ideal Neil has fallen. We do have quite a spill at the head of the stretch down there.
Let's take another look. Ideal Neil loses his footing and falls, causing a massive pileup. A violent chain reaction launches 5 men and their horses onto the track. One carriage barrels over Scott's back.
I felt something over me, which ended up being a race bike wheel because I had the mark over my back. And I mean, I could feel horses. I had some hoof marks on my helmet.
But Scott is better off than fellow driver Bill Latin. He was catapulted from his sulky and slammed into the guardrail. Then he's dragged by his horse until he finally breaks free from the stirrup.
I think I got drugged like 30 or 40 foot that way by 1 foot, and then I remember thinking, I hope something gives here.
Bill's horse, Purple Gangster, goes on to finish 3rd without him. Remarkably, all the men and their horses suffer only minor injuries. Even more incredibly, Scott, whose horse started the pileup, went on to race again that very same day.
Now, an amazing video classic.
St. Augustine, Florida. A small plane is in big trouble. Pilot Scott Gordon makes an emergency call to the airport control tower. The landing gear under the right wing of his Piper Arrow is jammed and won't come down. Scott is advised to circle over the runway so mechanic Joe Lippo can evaluate the problem.
Scott flew by the terminal, and the only thing we could really determine was the wheel was coming out of the well about 4 inches and stopping, wouldn't come any further.
The plane is running dangerously low on fuel, and there's no time to waste. Fire trucks and ambulances are standing by. As operations manager, Jim Mosier quickly assembles a team of experts to devise a rescue plan.
Jim came up with the idea to pull a trailer behind the truck. We were going to drive down the runway and maybe set that wing on that trailer.
I'm going to go as fast as I can go and see what it looks like to you, okay?
The plan is to tow the trailer down the runway at 90 miles an hour. Scott will attempt to land on his 2 good wheels while resting his right wing on the back of the speeding flatbed. The maneuver is technically possible, but extremely hazardous.
It took about 90 miles an hour because that's what it took to keep that airplane in the air. Anything less than that, it doesn't want to fly.
Scott flies into position, and Jim floors the truck. But it's not going fast enough. If Scott tries to land at this slow speed, the plane will crash. At the last second, he aborts the landing. Then, with time running out, the men are forced to try an even more daring strategy. First, they borrow a turbocharged sedan. Then, Joe plans to reach through the sunroof and pull down the disabled landing gear. If this doesn't work, all hope is lost.
Worst case scenario there is the airplane coming down on top of the car, and I would be the nail, he'd be the hammer.
Now, the plane is running only on fumes. Joe knows this is his last chance to save Scott. Amazingly, he does it. Watch again. As Joe grabs for the landing gear, the plane lifts inches out of his reach. Scott makes a quick adjustment.
And you could hear the throttle come off, and he dropped about 8 inches, just enough to get my hand around the top of the wheel. And I gave it one little tug, it didn't want to come, and then I put everything into it I had, and it snapped loose and came down.
Having accomplished this seemingly impossible mission, Scott is able to make a safe landing, and not a moment too soon.
It's first for me, but it's better than tearing up the belly of the airplane, so it worked, and everything turned out fine.
Scott owes his life to a resourceful ground crew that was willing to lend a helping hand.
dangerous high-speed chase ends with a terrifying plunge. Plus, a death-defying stunt goes bad when a daredevil gets tangled in his own parachute. Then later, an enormous explosion blows a Navy destroyer out of the water when the world's most amazing videos returns.